Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to everyone joining us from around the world for today's event in celebration of the International Youth Day 2022. On behalf of USAID, Youth Power to Learning and Evaluation, or YP2LE, and Youth Excel, we welcome you to our event, Intergenerational Solidarity, Inclusion, Protection, and Mental Wellbeing. My name is Dhania Singh, and I'm joining you all from India. I'm so happy to be your MC, and I will be guiding you through today's activities. Being a young leader, I have encountered many challenges and successes in my work. I have been a member of the USAID Digital Youth Council. During my tenure, we all were tasked with developing projects that clustered around the theme of digital harms. While putting my ideas together, I realized that different generations viewed the digital world and thus digital harms differently. For parents and teachers, the culprit was the cell phone, whereas what really impacted children online could range from harmless memes to harmful videos. It is in fact becoming increasingly difficult to estimate the kind of trouble that awaits us online. Hence, my project suggested to develop a digital defense lab that engaged both the generations, young children and their parents and teachers, in interactive yet insightful activities to make them aware of, alert about, and advocate against digital harms. Hence, with this event today, I'm excited to explore the importance of working across generations to support one another to achieve progress and combat global issues. Today, we shall seek to understand how we all can play a meaningful role in materializing the goal of intergenerational solidarity. Over the next hour and a half, we will hear from voices across various generations and diverse backgrounds through intergenerational dialogues, focusing on important issues such as mental health, power differentials, protection and safeguarding, and inclusion. We will also spotlight activities from Youth Excel supporting transformative work and celebrate the current and future achievements of the many leaders working in this space. But I would also like to stress that the topics that we cover today are not just youth issues, but they're also not bound to the systems constructed by those before us. These issues are rather universal and timeless, and hence require our collective experiences, expertise, and efforts to help mitigate them. As we begin, I would now like to thank the USAID's dedication to inclusive development for youth engagement by providing this opportunity to share, learn, and work together. And thank you to all the speakers, staff, and this wonderful audience joining us today. To kick us off, we are very lucky to be joined by two speakers from the USAID, the Deputy Assistant Administrator for the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Hub and the Inclusive Development Hub in the Bureau for Development, Democracy, and Innovation, Ms. Bama Atreya, and Youth Specialist for USAID's Eastern Southern Caribbean Mission, Tevin Shepherd. Please join me in welcoming Bama and Tevin. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and greetings. And thank you so much, Ananya, for the introduction, and happy International Youth Day. I'm also very excited to be here with what I can see is a terrific group of practitioners from around the world. Very exciting to see you all, and exciting also to know that all month long, celebrations around the world will recognize the importance of youth efforts, youth leadership, and youth participation in development. We're so excited about that. In particular, we know your efforts will examine how governments, young people, and youth-led organizations, as well as other stakeholders, are leveraging the full potential of young people to ensure a future with greater opportunity for all. And I am really pleased to be in this dialogue this morning to open this up with my colleague, Tevin Shepherd. So Tevin and I had agreed that we're going to tell you a little bit about why we're passionate about this work to get us started for the day. And so I'll start by saying I am passionate about this work because this is my experience as well. And that's what's important about thinking about this in an intergenerational way. We may be of different generations, but many of us who are older have been youth, right? So when I was a young person, when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, when I was 30 years old, actually, I was given the chance to lead a country office for a USAID implementing organization in Cambodia. And so that was a big responsibility to manage people, to lead programming, to make important strategic choices for the organization. And I was trusted at that age as a youth to play that role. I had a wonderful regional supervisor who had my back and helped me correct course when I made many mistakes, which of course I did, but then so do we all. And I felt it important to pay it forward. And so throughout my career, I've also really valued the opportunity to hire young people, to put youth in positions where you can lead, they can lead, and they can provide the insights and learn how to lead, but also teach us what leadership looks like at the same time. So that's part of what I'm here for. And Tevin, I am really excited to hear from you now and what it is that brings you into this work and your passion for youth leadership.
Thank you so much, Bama, for this introduction, and thank you so much for being an advocate for young people and hiring young people and trusting young people in the work that you do. The theme for International Youth Day this year is Intergenerational Solidarity, creating a world for all ages, which highlights how age-related barriers deeply impact youth well-being, not only in their youngest years, but also in adulthood. These barriers prevent us from designing programs that are inclusive to all ages and are adaptable to life stages. By overlooking the specific needs, voices, and abilities of youth, we miss a critical opportunity to advance development goals. I'm happy that as a young person, I've been able to serve, or I am serving as a youth specialist within youth advisor within the USAID mission in the Eastern and Southern Caribbean, and we cover 11 countries. And my involvement with young people stems from being a younger youth, if you want to call it. From the age of 12, I've been involved in community development. I initiated an organization called Project Can in Canaries, and Canaries is a very rural community in St. Lucia, one of the smallest communities in St. Lucia. And that experience where we provided educational opportunities for vulnerable young people propelled me to work at a national level, where I served as the vice president of the National Youth Council. And the National Youth Council in St. Lucia is the voice of young people. It's a governing body for youth issues. And being part of that initiative, I was pleased that the government of St. Lucia then provided opportunities for young people to be meaningfully engaged. And by meaningful engagement, I mean involved in decision making. So I'm pleased to be part of this webinar, and it's going to be an exciting morning.
Indeed it is. Tevin, I think you're being a little bit modest about yourself. I believe you've been recognized internationally for your efforts. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So my involvement in community development, was recognized perhaps at the highest level. In 2016, I was recognized by Queen Elizabeth II with a Queen's Young Leader Award. And that award recognized at that time 60 outstanding young people across the Commonwealth. I was also recognized by the Commonwealth Secretariat as an outstanding youth in development in that same year. And the governor of St. Lucia, of course, recognized me as the most outstanding youth in St. Lucia in 2015. So, my work being involved in community development has been recognized, but, it's really the working with young people at a community level and seeing how your work in civil society changes lives.
Great, thanks. So Tevin, where do we take it from here?
Sure. So perhaps you can share with us your experience working with youth, and perhaps maybe you can convince others why it's important to partner with young people,
Sure, happy to. I will say, I really do think, first of all, there's the evidence, right, of what works. We need to hear all voices to make the best choices. And let me say that again, because this is at the heart of all the work we do on inclusive development. We need to hear all voices to make the best choices. And our team in the Inclusive Development Hub recently reminded me of an excellent example of that, just a recent example, one of many. Youth Excel's issue-based collaborative network, or ICON, hosted a data summit in Kenya. And the point of the data summit was to present findings that had been developed by key stakeholders, youth-led stakeholders, on how to enhance workforce readiness and ensure more people are included in their economies. And the recommendations were excellent. They were wonderful recommendations to enhance the livelihoods of persons with disabilities, women, and others from a range of different groups and communities. And indeed, without listening to those voices, without the partnership that those young people brought, the recommendations would not have been anywhere near as rich. But I have to tell you, my experience in trying to make the case to others is that sometimes the evidence is not enough, right? We really need to be convinced of what this does for us, why it's good for us to allow ourselves to hear those voices from younger generations. And I know for me, when I was young, again, I was a social justice activist and an advocate. And sorry, there is a little noise in the background here. So I was a social justice advocate. And as I grew older and as I continued to work with younger generations, I realized that what we had asked for in social justice movements when I was younger, we had never achieved. We had achieved maybe half of what we asked for at best. And so it has been so important to me to personally to continue to engage young generations who want to see that change, whether it is in social justice, whether it is in delivering greater economic opportunity, better educational systems, better health systems, whatever the aspect is. We need to hear those voices because what we asked for when I was younger, we never achieved. And if we don't hear from young generations that are continuing to ask for more, we in my generation cannot continue to ask for more and push the envelope either. So Tevin, now I've spoken for a few minutes. I'd really like to turn the same question back to you. What is it that you need people to hear, and what do you need other generations to do for your generation?
Thank you so much for that. I really love your energy, and again, kudos in being an advocate for young people. Like being involved in youth development, what I've seen over the years is that young people are tokens in development. There's a program which focuses on, youth development, but you see young people just being used as photo ops or just invited in ceremonies. But young people are sometimes not meaningfully engaged. And when I say meaningfully engagement, I mean them being engaged in designing a program that impacts them, being involved in implementing that program, and also evaluating that program to feedback and where we can learn from young people's experiences. So and that cycle of tokenism breeds frustration and disengagement among young people, and we really do not want that. To be honest, young people have a lot to learn, but we do have a lot to share. And I think if we listen, and I think listening should be two ways. Listening to people who are older than us, but also people who are older than us, listening to our issues and our challenges. And even being part of the USAID ESC mission, one of the first things we recently stood up about 2 months ago is a youth council. And we stood up a youth council. It's a 15-member grouping of young people across the 11 countries that we serve. And I think it's an important element in our work because these young people would be advocates for their communities, but also be involved in informing and feedbacking on our programs. And one key feature of that program, because a lot of the work that we do in the region focuses on citizen security, and we also have young people who are part of detention facilities, young people who have been involved in crime and violence, where we are designing as a mission programs focused on crime and violence reduction. I think we thought it was important to invite these young people who have been involved in crime and violence in the discussion. So, these young people are part of the council, and we're very proud of that. And, it's one step closer in meaningfully engaging young people in the work that we do.
I think that's just such an important point to remind everyone about ensuring that those consultations are not just tokenistic, but that we genuinely hear. I mean, how do you hold us accountable, Tevin, to really hearing and taking on board these recommendations?
Sorry, can you repeat your question, sorry?
Sure. How do you make sure that we are accountable for hearing and taking on board the recommendations from youth councils or?
Yeah, so that, young people, you've been involved in the youth justice movement, you understand that we need to continue being advocates. If we're not getting where we should be, we need to continue being advocates. We need to ask and make noise about being around the table. We need to make noise around, the issues that affect us. And if we become silent, by the system, then we'll not make any progress. So I think as youth leaders, we need to continue being advocates, even if when the future seems bleak, but so that our issues can be considered.
All right, I'm sorry to say, I think we're coming short on our time for this introductory session, Tevin, because I could really talk to you all day about these issues. Let me just say, I want to thank you for the work you've done as a champion. And, it's just so important what you're doing and what others are doing in roles like yours across USAID. And I'll say a few words just to close out my part of this introduction. We at USAID are committed to elevating the voices of young people as meaningful partners in development. It's one of the key pillars of our updated and recently released Youth and Development Policy that guides our agency-wide investments. I hope everyone checks that policy out. And one of the guiding principles there is to strengthen intergenerational approaches to decision-making. I would also like to announce that this isn't just about policy, but providing tools and resources as well for organizations that are looking to strengthen commitments to youth development and engagement. And therefore, in addition to the new policy, our team has just released a really terrific youth policy companion guide with practical and technical resources for organizations like those participating in today's event. So we hope you will check out those resources. And Tevin, I'll let you say just a final word if you'd like, and then we'll pass back to Ananya to get us to the next part of this session. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bam. And I'm just pleased that USAID is bringing the development of young people and the engagement of young people at the forefront of its agenda, even which is evident in the youth policy, youth and development policy. I just want to say that we need to continue the engagement, continue being advocate for young people, and ensure that young people are meaningfully engaged and not used as tokens in development, but are meaningfully engaged on issues that affect them.
All right, now back to the rest of this exciting event. Ananya, thanks so much for taking us back into the next session.
Thank you so much, Mama and Tevin. We are so excited that you joined us today to kick off the event, provide us with a great understanding of the USAID's commitment to youth engagement, and model an inclusive intergenerational dialogue. Now, I would like to take a moment to hear from young leaders globally about intergenerational solidarity. We asked young leaders from communities all over the world what intergenerational solidarity means to them and how they think we can achieve it. Let's hear what they had to say.
Mi nombre es Maya Cañas y soy de la ciudad de Guatemala, en el municipio de Villanueva.
I'm Esma Gumberidze, 27-year-old, joining from Tbilisi, Georgia.
My name is Mbangua Elvis Ngwa, and I'm joining you all from Cameroon.
My name is Maina Mboze, and I'm joining you all from Kampala, Uganda.
Para mí, la solidaridad intergeneracional significa que todas las personas, independientemente de su edad, puedan trabajar en armonía y apoyarse por un bien común, ya sea a nivel familiar, comunitario, municipal o nacional.
To me, intergenerational solidarity means working together on different issues that are important and common for all age groups, both younger and older persons.
To me, intergenerational solidarity means ensuring that youths are supported in building a society that is safe for children.
International solidarity to me means understanding issues and challenges that are facing different generations and developing both empathy and collaboration to work together to, address these challenges.
Se necesita que los adultos le abran espacio a los jóvenes para apoyarles con su experiencia y también que personas de todas las edades estén conscientes de que están trabajando por algún beneficio en común, independientemente de su edad. Que esto nos ayudaría para poder trabajar en armonía y que se logre el fin que se tiene pensado.
None of age groups can achieve social transformation alone, as it's usually expected from youth to bring about change. It's not possible. without the rest of society and its support. Because youth is only a minority, while to achieve real social transformation and depolarized society, we need all groups of age and other diversity working together.
Adults must engage youth in defining policy and executing programs that prevent children from experiencing violence, exploitation, and abuse.
We need to find a common ground. We need to listen. We need to learn. And we also need to find ways of collectively addressing problems. Remember, the young people of today, we are the children of yesterday and the elderly of the future.
Happy International Youth Day.
Happy International Youth Day.
And Happy International Youth Day.
Wow, what an amazing group of people. I'm so happy to have heard from them all and would like to thank each of them for taking the time and space to share their wisdom with us all. In this video and in our opening remarks, you may have noted some important points and themes touched on by our speakers. As we worked collectively to bring this event to you, it was important we focused in on some topical areas that we heard were important to intergenerational solidarity. That is why we choose to focus this event around the topics of mental health and psychosocial support, safeguarding and protection, addressing power differentials, and inclusion. To further explore these important topics in an intergenerational manner, we are now excited to move to the next portion of our agenda with an intergenerational panel discussion. Today, we are joined by 4 experts from around the world who will share a little about their work surrounding these topical areas, and then join together for a discussion where they will share and exchange their thoughts, lived experiences, and ideas on how these important issues all tie into and can support intergenerational solidarity. And with that, I would like to invite our first speaker to the stage, Leif Abu Talib. Leif is the founder of Arabic He for She, a solidarity movement for gender equality, and the founder of Users, a startup company specialized in paper art gamification related products. Leif has worked as an international gamification consultant for the MENA region with the UN Women Regional Office for the Arab States. He's a certified trainer on peer education, a sustainable development goals and social media coach, and develops a positive youth approach through launching social and youth clubs in different fields such as art, debate, theater, public speaking, and languages. Let's welcome Leif to the stage.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm super happy and honored to join all of you today to talk more about our impact and what we are trying to do to reach the intergenerational solidarity. I'm Leif Abu Talib. Originally, I'm from Jordan. Now I am based in Mexico. I like to travel a lot to learn more about different cultures and different experiences around to integrate in my work. Back to 2014, when I was a student at university, I met a girl at university and she came to me and said, Leif, how lucky you are because you are a man, you are able to travel, to go outside of your city, to interact with a lot of activities, all of that because you are a man. You have a lot of opportunities, you can integrate in a lot of activities just because of your gender or because of your sex. But because I am a woman, I can do anything of that because of the culture and the community and society I'm raising in. While I'm going back to my home, I start thinking about this conversation and I said, why we are living in this unequal community where we are not able to give an equal opportunity to everyone. And from here, I started working on He for She, the Arabic version of He for She in the MENA region, in the Middle East and North Africa. to have on my shoulder the message of giving an equal opportunity to everyone to work on gender equality and solidarity and inclusion, to work all together to reach this community where we can do whatever we want and to play the role we want without having any stereotypes around us. The story of this girl put me like on the conversation to create a bold change, to put Jordan in the worldwide map, to speak out loud and to tell everyone you can stand with us in solidarity to make that change. Because what changed me, it's a quote by Emma Watson. She said, if not me, who? If not now, when? And by hearing this quote, I said, no, it's me, and now the time to take an action to make a bold change. And from here, we founded Arabic He for She in Jordan, and we start moving it from country to another to inspire other youth, other people to stand all together on the conversation to make this bold change. I'm super happy and honored again, like to be with you today to talk more about our experiences and about the work that we are doing. And yeah, I'm super excited to hear also from the other speakers. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leif. It's a pleasure to have you here. Next, I would like to introduce Jennifer Kaberi. Jennifer is a child development specialist and an international development work professional. Her vision is to transform Africa's story through empowering children to speak for themselves by using data-driven solutions and technology that is Afrocentric. Jennifer believes a vision will result in a positive outcome in Africa that touches not only socioeconomic development, but also humanity. Jennifer has spent over 10 years working in the child development sector on an array of community, district, national, and international projects. In 2017, she founded mToto News, an online platform to improve the lives of children through technology. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Anaya. Wow. Yes, I'm that old, 10 years. I am that old. As Anaya said, my name is Jennifer Kaberi. I am from Kenya. I'm a child development specialist. But right now I focus so much on child policy across Africa, and just start working at the global level. So I work on empowering children to be able to speak for themselves, to hold governments accountable, because as someone said, we cannot move forward when we are not hearing from everybody. I hope I paraphrased well, but I think that's something that has really resonated with me, because if you're not able to empower young people in Africa, for example, the youth bulge by 2050 will have 1 billion children, persons below the age of 18. That's a huge number. If you don't empower them to be able to hold governments accountable, if you're not able to be responsible, to be able to contribute to development, we are not going to have that growth that we all want to see in 2063 in Africa. So that's what we do as at mToto News. We are able to empower children. We have the youngest, I think right now is 8-year-old, but we are hoping to get younger ones, 8 to 17. And then we have another program for above 17 to 21-year-olds, where we are empowering them to be able to be accountable, or to push for development, to be innovative, to come up with solutions for the problems that we face. Okay, so that's what we do in mToto News. Just helping children to be able to participate, and we have been able to support children to participate in different forums, from the national, from the local in Kenya, county level, to the national, to the regional, and also to the global. Like now, for example, in Kenya right now, we are having elections. So if you see me, maybe the elections they have announced who the president is. So we helped our children to be able to come up with manifestos. And after that, we are going to help children to be able to do tracking. Okay, we have promised you're going to build for you 200 classrooms. By year 1, how many classrooms have you built? We're helping children to be able to do that, to be able to hold governments accountable, because if they don't hold governments accountable, the government will just assume these guys are not voters, so they are not, we don't think they are an important demography. So for us, our work is to ensure that as much as children don't vote, they don't have that voting power, they're an important demography that leaders need to look at, and they have to look at them with our eye of, these are human beings. They are not future, they are current. They are not just human being. They are not human becoming, they are human beings. They're already being. they're not becoming humans when they're 18. Thank you very much, Anaya.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's really great to hear from you. Thank you for joining us today. Now we will hear from Ufra Mir, who is a peace psychologist from South Asia. Ufra has been working at the intersection of psychology, mental health, psychosocial support, education, arts, conflict transformation, and peace building for over a decade. Ufra's work aims to support individuals, communities, and systems to cope with the psychological ramifications of living in conflict zones while advocating for justice and human rights. She believes mental is political and curates culturally relevant approaches to well-being and psychological support. Ufra, we are so excited to have you join us today. Welcome.
Thanks, Ananya. I hope I'm audible, and good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody who's joined you. My name is Ufra, and I've been working at the intersection of psychology, mental health, arts, conflict transformation, and peace building in Kashmir and other parts of South and Southeast Asia, Europe, and other places around the world. Basically, 17 years ago, when I was in high school, as a young person, I started exploring psychology and peace building. And coming from a conflict zone like Kashmir, where we don't actually have safe spaces to express, and we don't, especially young people, who get so much affected in the process, and there's already so much of identity crisis and different kinds of crisis, including mental health crisis. I started asking myself, how can I contribute to my community? How do I translate all the pain I've experienced as a Kashmiri and help my community? And that kind of motivated me to think about a very contextualized, localized kind of support system for communities out there, especially the communities that are stuck in ongoing conflict situations. So for me, I basically believe that, as you rightly said in my introduction, mental is political, and I can't imagine doing peace building work without taking into consideration people's emotions, their fears, their thoughts, and their traumas. And without that approach, I feel like peace building can never be sustainable. We definitely need a more inclusive, a more well-being oriented approach to peace building. And in that, I also advocate a lot about how, for instance, protection needs to be holistic, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that in a while. But as a young person, a long time ago, I started my own initiatives, Paigam, and now it's kind of evolved into an international center for peace psychology. But the focus has always been in the fact that I believe young people have a lot of power and they have a lot of talents, and how do we provide them and kind of help them with different kinds of platforms so that they can come together and empower each other, but also contribute to the communities in need. And in that, I think mental health and psychological support is central. It's not everything, but I think it's so important, especially when we're talking about peace building and conflict transformation work. So over the past decade, I've been practicing and doing this work closely with women and young people. And I really believe in more of a contextualized, localized approach in doing this work, where we take into consideration, local culture and traditions and all of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Ufra. Lastly, I'm so excited to welcome Dhania Favaz to the stage, who I have had the pleasure of working with in the past. Dhania is a Health and Care Professions Council registered art therapist with a history of working with trauma, focusing on child and adolescent mental health. She has worked with local and international nonprofits, providing a creative, safer space for children, youth, and families experiencing displacement and fleeing conflict zones. She focuses on applying a strength-based approach across her work, both in direct service provision with communities facing adversity and when working systematically on policies and procedures. With the YP2LE activity, Dhania implements projects in youth development with an emphasis on psychosocial services, mental health, social emotional learning, resilience, trauma-informed care, and safeguarding and protection. Hello, Dhania. It is so great to see you again.
It's so great to see you, Ananya, and to be on a panel discussion with you. And hello, everyone. My name is Dhania Favaz, and I'm really excited to be here and take part in this discussion with you all today. I am joining you all from Beirut, Lebanon, and in many global contexts, I would be considered an adult. Throughout my life and work, I have focused, as Ananya introduced, on mental health and psychosocial support, mainly through art psychotherapy. So using creative expression to foster healing and mental well-being. And more specifically, my work has focused on understanding trauma, how it manifests, how we heal from it, both individually and collectively, and how we can cultivate this understanding of healing within communities. My interest in mental health, and more specifically trauma, it comes from a personal story. It comes from my background and my family lineage, where we hold a lot of intergenerational trauma. So my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents lived through the civil war in Lebanon, amongst other conflicts. And I myself then also lived through conflict in my childhood and teens. And so I took on a journey to understand how trauma impacts individuals, families, communities, and generations, trying to understand my family a little bit better. And this led me to pursue my master's in art therapy and my subsequent work in Lebanon with families experiencing displacement and trauma as a result of conflict. I'm still very much so on that path to understanding and to unpacking this very complicated landscape of mental health in my family, in my community, and now even more globally through my work. I started on this path in my late teens and early 20s. And as we heard a little bit today through other speakers, I was often dismissed. I was often not taken seriously enough. I was told that I hadn't lived enough to understand. I'm sure there were also gender components kind of playing in with that, the ageism that was happening. And specifically in mental health, you expect mental health experts to be older, to have a certain kind of lived experience. And so that was a struggle for me in my early career. And this sparked an interest in me to really want to create space for those who were dismissed or not listened to because of their different identities. And in a way, probably through doing that, I was also creating space for myself. And I carry this into my work today as I support programs that incorporate youth and adult populations. In my current position at Making Sense International as the Senior Specialist of Youth Development, I really work to try and incorporate my professional training in mental health to help bridge those generational gaps in understanding and providing youth-friendly services that are inclusive of safe, holistic, and mentally positive environments. And as an adult, I'm always conscious of trying to make space to listen, always trying to be conscious of, sharing the power that I yield and to be receptive to the voices and opinions of youth and all their diversity, whether or not they are in line with my own opinions, so that I can contribute to this environment that we are all on this call kind of working towards, that we value inclusion and that, the environment is also inclusive. And so I'm really, really looking forward to diving into this deeper with this panel. And thank you so much for that introduction, Ananya. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dhania. I'm sure your story is going to inspire many more people to actually swing into action. What a truly amazing group of individuals joining us today, right? You all have such inspiring stories and are working on so many wonderful projects. I am simply so inspired right now. And now that we have had a chance to hear from you all, I would like to open the panel to some discussion. Let's start with you, Ufra. I would like to ask you this question. Can you tell us a bit more about holistic protection for youth? Why are protection and mental health crucial in peace building, especially for youth and women and for intergenerational solidarity?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So as I said, 17 years ago, when I was exploring peace psychology for myself, I was looking at, the work there were obviously a lot of people doing the work in mental health separately and in peace building. But for me, I think a lot of holistic approaches were missing. And I feel like as humans, we're so complex, we're complicated. And hence, we need multidimensional approaches to look at also problems, to solve them in a very holistic, eclectic manner. And when I talk about holistic protection, what I hear in different forums, even today, is when we talk about, let's say, protection of young people, we are mostly focused on the socioeconomic or the physical protection of people. While that is crucial and super important, but it also means that, with the changing times and the changing dynamics of where we are, we also have to now take into consideration the digital rights of people, the legal rights of people, the psychological well-being of young people. And in that, what are we doing to protect young people from a psychological perspective, for instance, or from a legal or digital perspective, or from a socioeconomic perspective? So all of these dynamics together are really important. And we have to now look at, protection related issues from that perspective as well. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Ufra. I would like to continue to touch on the topic of gender with Leif. So Leif, I would like to ask you this, since you have visited and worked in many countries and have been able to see many cultures, can you share with us some examples of challenges regarding gender inclusion and power differentials, specifically in the MENA region?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Ananya. At the beginning, it was really difficult to work on gender equality and women empowerment in my country, because I always used to hear this question: you are a man, why you are working on gender equality and women empowerment? Jordan, it's a Muslim country, and a lot of people, they used to tell us like, what you are doing, it's against the religion, it's against the culture, and so on. So after like digging in and visiting a lot of countries around, like to learn more about their experiences and how it worked in these specific countries, like to reach at least like a part on the gender equality and women empowerment, to give an equal opportunity to everyone, we reached to this conclusion that there is a huge difference between sex equality and gender equality. And what we are working on is gender equality. What we are trying to do basically is to give an equal opportunity to everyone, regardless the gender, the race, the background, the area that they are and like to let everyone able to practice their role in the community without having these stereotypes around us that limit us. So once I start knowing this from my tour around the world, I visited more than 55 cities around the world to participate in different activities, and to have this knowledge that I used to integrate in my social work in general. I started with educating the community about the difference between sex and gender. And once I reached this formula, it made my work with the team much easier. We start doing this in the way that we see it's the best for my communities. We start doing it through the debate, the theater, the art, the public speaking, the languages. We start giving like languages clubs and sessions to everyone, to let them like able to read other articles in other languages, because it was really difficult to have like a resource in Arabic that is really clear about gender, when we are talking about gender and sex and women empowerment, about stereotyping, about intergenerational solidarity, and so on. Because if we use like sex equality and gender equality and we put it on Google Translate, it will give us the same meaning, al-musawa bayn al-jinsayn. It will not give us like the huge difference between the meaning between these two. So traveling around the world and meeting like a lot of youth in different corners in this planet, it gave me like the vision that also, especially working on the SDGs and following the title, leaving no one behind, it helped me a lot like to put everyone in the conversation and to start like always taking a step backwards to see like the picture from a wider view. So to know like why they are not accepting us, like my community. There is a gap. They are not understanding what we are exactly working on. So traveling and understanding from different people, hearing from different points of view, it helped me a lot like to reach this formula. We need to educate the community about the basics of the things that we are working on, and to always put ourselves in the situation of the receiver of the information. So this is why we start making the debates to put like a title. And we have two teams. Like the first team is with the argument and the topic that we are talking with, and the second team is against this topic. So we have this dialogue in a professional way, in a way that we accept each other regardless the differentiation between all of us. Because at the end, there is like no planet B, so there is no plan B. So we start telling everyone that this is our planet. We need like all of us to be in the conversation. It's me and now. All of us, we can raise our voice to reach something. And this is how we start working from bottom to top by educating youth, and to have more people standing on the right side of history. And after that, we start making advocacy campaigns to reach the decision makers, to start working like all together in parallel to educate the school students, the university students, our parents, our grandparents, our small brothers and sisters, our children, and so on. We start educating the whole cycle to reach like gender equality and women empowerment. Over to you, Ananya.
Thank you so much, Leif. Your passion is definitely reflected in your words, and I'm sure you'll succeed, continue to succeed in the future. Since we have talked a lot about engagement in supporting different populations, I would now like to turn to you, Jennifer, for a moment to talk about protection and safeguarding. Given your work with younger adults and youth population, can you tell us a bit more about some of the important things that adults can do to create environments to engage with youth in a safe and respectable manner?
Thank you so much, Anaya. So for me, the first thing, for you to be able to protect children and young people, you have to first listen to them. You have to hear them, okay? For example, Anaya, you can't tell, I can't know you need protection if I don't hear from you. You have to tell me, Jennifer, please help me, okay? So you have to, first thing, you have to listen to them. And that's a lot of something that as adults, we don't do to children, okay? We operate in a way that I know everything about these children, so there's nothing they can tell me. They're not going to add anything. They can't tell me. But if you listen to them, I can actually tell you, actually, this is what I'm going through, and this is how you can be able to protect me, okay? And that means a mind shift, a complete mind shift from thinking like an adult to go to the child's level, okay? And acknowledging that the lived experience of each generation of children is different from another. For example, my children and myself, when I was a child, I did not go through what my children are going. We did not have TikTok. We did not have technology. I tell my children, we did not have a television, and they cannot imagine how did you guys survive? My son once to ask me, Mommy, how did you survive without a television? But for us, that was normal. Having a TV was not a big deal. It was, I can survive. But the current generation of children, they need information. It's an information age. They want to interact with the internet. If you deny them internet and technology, you're actually not protecting them. So you need to first listen, go to what is known as child. It's a movement that is growing called childism. Going to the level of children, okay? Listening to them, trying to understand that their generation of children is different from your generation of children, and what they are going through is very different from what you went through. That's number one. But also creating an environment where they can be able to express themselves, okay? So they can be able to, as they engage, as they talk, you just create a space, okay? Create a space where they can be able to be able to engage, okay? And then the other one is you have to give them feedback, okay? Just guys, this is going on. Like the kids we work with, we have in our office every single day, we have 2 or 3 children, a minimum of 2 or 3 children, and weekends we get a lot. But it's just giving them feedback. This is how to protect them. Train them, okay? Train them, okay? Because if you don't give them information on how to protect them and give them feedback, what you guys are doing, for example, if you're engaging online, you're going to face this. These are the guys you're going to be trolled. You're going to be bullied. You're going to have you're going to face online sexual exploitation. You're going to be able to see porn. Okay, what do you do when you see these things? So you give them that feedback and you tell them, okay, you want to engage here, gaming, here, but you're in Roblox, inside those or Minecraft, and then you meet a crazy person. Okay, what do you do when you meet all these crazy people? So you have to empower them to be able to protect themselves, because if a child is not empowered or a young person is not empowered, they're not able to protect themselves, because they are their first line of defense with information. Information is their first line of defense. That's how they safeguard themselves. And then again, working with older people in their community. And here I'm being very deliberate to use older people, not parents, because research shows that children are abused by the closest people in their communities. Okay, that can be an older cousin, an uncle, unfortunately a dad or a mom. Okay, so working with the communities around them and telling them, this is how you protect children. This is how, these are violations. This is how you're violating this right, okay? But you have to work with communities and tell them this is the definition of abuse, because in law, they say that ignorance is not defense, okay? So if they don't know, then the children continue being abused. The older ones, the adults don't know that you're actually abusing a child. They will not, the children are going to continue abusing. But because it's normal in their communities, it's normal in their families, people kind of accept it. So working with communities. And then number 3 is just working with policies. If you don't have policies in a country, like now Kenya, we've just passed an amazing law, Children's Act 2022, an amazing law that provides so much. It's so expounded on different things about protecting children. But if that law is not existing, children are not protected. Someone will go, okay, fine, you're taking me to court because of what wrong did I do? So it will be like, what wrong did I do because you're taking me to court? So there has to be a policy framework, okay? Policy framework starting from the national level all the way to the global level. And for children, we are very blessed to have the UNCRC, the United Nations Convention on the Rights and the Welfare, the Nation on the Rights of Children. And then in Africa, for example, we have the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of Children. In the EU, we have the Eurochild. Okay, in Asia, we have the ASEA. Okay, America has the COPPA. So different continents, they have their own kind of legal framework to be able to protect children. So you have to have a legal framework that protects children, and each country should have their own one for themselves. So we have to have a legal framework that protects children. And then we have to have political goodwill. Okay, we can have all these amazing things. We can empower parents, we can empower others, but if our political class that is not buying into what we have, children are not going to be protected, okay? They're not going to provide a budget for children, okay? So globally, research by WHO shows that child protection is one of the most underfunded programs in the world, okay? But the cost is huge. The cost of inaction is huge. I can't remember the amounts, but it's huge. I can't remember, but there is an amount. WHO has some amounts. It's huge. I'll Google and put in the chat later. And so, but the cost of inaction of not protecting a child is huge. I'll give you an example. For example, if a young person comes to your space and they are abused, sexually abused, okay? So just take sexual abuse. That child will need police. Okay, the police, how much do we charge? How much does it take police, okay? And this child will need healthcare. And this healthcare is physical healthcare, okay, to treat any injury they may have had, okay? And then a long-term psychological care, okay? So that is that's just like the first month or less, okay, of abuse. But in the long term, if this child, this is a person who has been abused, most likely they become, if intervention is not done immediately, they become abusers. So you see, it becomes a cycle of abuse, okay? And this is because a politician or two refuse to increase a budget for child protection in a country, okay? And it causes a cycle of abuse, and so it becomes a cycle of abuse, and because there's no political goodwill from our politicians. So it's to protect. It's a system, okay? You all parts. It's like it's a puzzle. All parts have to work together. If one part does not work, there's a crack, there is a space, something is gonna fall on those cracks. Okay, so and most likely it's a child. Okay, the child is the one who's going to fall on those cracks because that system is not working. So we have to work in a system that works from the child being at the center all the way to global with enabling policies and political goodwill. Thank you so much, Anaya.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was amazing to hear from you. Let us now turn to you for a moment, Dhania, and touch on the importance of holistic approaches. Can you further explain to us what it means to take an intersectional and inclusive approach to dialogue? What does that look like in practice, and why is it important?
Thanks, Ananya. Yeah, I know today we're talking a lot about intergenerational solidarity, and there's a lot of focus on age and a lot of focus on working across the lifespan. But this is it's a really important conversation to bring into that discussion, because taking an intersectional approach usually involves acknowledging that social identities do overlap and that they can create compounding experiences in either discrimination or marginalization. And talking about intergenerational solidarity, we cannot experience solidarity without looking at the many different identities we each hold, at how they intersect, and also at how groups are marginalized based on these identities. For example, if we look at ageism, that intersects with other forms of bias and discrimination. We have racism, sexism, homophobia, ableism, amongst other forms of discrimination that are unfortunately too many to list here. And so looking at intergenerational solidarity, we need to widen that lens and acknowledge how these different factors can compound. It's not just about youth engagement or youth adult partnerships. It's much more complex. And we cannot and probably should not look at age alone as the only factor. And including an inclusive approach also means recognizing the importance of making decisions with and not decisions for. So how do we recognize and address the needs of individuals, families, or communities if they are not present in the spaces where those decisions are being made? And I know that we've all heard this sentiment on many panels and events and other avenues around youth engagement, which I hope is a sign that things are shifting and things are changing to be more inclusive. And of course, we need to be patient, recognizing that these sorts of changes take time. And to hone in on the second part of your question on why it's important to take an intersectional and inclusive approach, I will ground this in my background of mental health, just to shed some light on the opposite. You know, if we are not taking these approaches, we can see the impacts of these negative stereotypes, and more specifically, these intersecting systems of oppression on individuals and groups. And that results in a greater risk for experiencing mental health difficulties, for individuals experiencing anxiety, depression, you know, lower self-esteem, as this kind of daily and constant experience of discrimination can impact the way we perceive ourselves and experience the world around us. And in practice, I mean, what does it look like to apply an intersectional and inclusive approach? It's these are very large topics that we could probably unpack for much longer than we have time to discuss today, but it will look different in different contexts. And from a more general perspective, I think, you know, someone earlier said empathy. Brought up, I think it was Mai on the recordings, she mentioned empathy as a really key component. And I think that that is something that we need to carry into our work. You know, it may look like humility, you know, going both ways across the lifespan, you know, seeking out partnerships with one another and bringing that level of humility to our work, creating space for those who are left out. So in this dynamic, we have a lot of exclusion of youth. And so creating space for them to participate, creating space for them to receive mentorship from others who may have more years of experience in the sector. And probably the hardest one that we've heard of is sharing power, you know, being comfortable with things being done in a different way, even if that makes us uncomfortable, and sort of like being comfortable, like learning how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's primarily for the adults in the room, is learning how to have things done a little bit differently. And, you know, we all have so much to learn from each other, going up and down the age span, and intergenerational solidarity really includes a level of intergenerational learning, and creating these inclusive spaces to learn from one another is incredibly valuable, and something that we should all be continuing to, you know, build upon and work towards. I'll stop there. Over to you, Ananya.
Thank you so much, Dhania. And I would also like to thank all of our panelists. We do have some questions for all of you from the audience. And here is the first question, which I personally think is a very, very important one. What do you think about the inclusion and participation of young people with disabilities in the context of intergenerational solidarity? What role can they play in this intergenerational dialogue?
For me, that's it's a very close topic to my heart, child participation. Let me just take it from the child participation bit of children with disability, and especially children with not the unseen disability. This is intellectual disability and neurological disability. So for us, we have to be able to create space for them to be able to participate, have the right tools to enable them to participate. For example, in this webinar, we have a sign language interpreter, which is an amazing thing, okay? So we have to be able to create a space for them to be able to participate, okay? Create an environment, bring in tools, train people who are able to interact with them. For those ones who have neurological disability, that is maybe dyslexia, ADHD, or whatever kind of neurological, understand that they are also human beings, and be able to create space and provide for them that opportunity to participate in their own unique way, okay? For example, if it's a dyslexic person, know that writing is an issue for them, spelling is an issue for them. How else can they be able to express by themselves? Okay, if they have, if they cannot be able to express themselves, just provide an environment where they can be able to participate in their own unique way. Okay, so for me, that is something that I would want to add into this conversation, that let's train, let's provide tools for persons, for children with disability to be able to be part of us, okay? And we don't have them and us mentality, but they're all youth, they're all children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Is there any other panelist who would like to add anything? I'm assuming that's a no, and we would hence move to the next question that we have. This is also a very important one. So how do we think we are going to tackle the barriers of religion when it comes to gender equality? Is there a panelist who would like to illustrate on this?
I can talk about this. Like usually the religion, it's the key to enter any community. So because like a lot of people from their own belief inside, they feel that we don't want like to work on any topic that we feel it could affect our religion. Because usually the religion, it's more powerful than the law and the government when it's related to some communities. This is why we need to understand the religion, and we need to understand how we can reach people by giving them like enough knowledge about gender and how it's really important, and it's not interfering with the religion at all. It's something like working with the religion together, because like none of the religions in any corner around the world, it's telling us that we should not give an equal opportunity to everyone, that we should not have like enough rights for people with disabilities. None of the religions are telling us like any of that. So we need like to tell people more about the basics of any topic that we are working on, especially when it's related to gender. And in my case, living in a Muslim country, as I told you before, like the way that we worked on is by telling people the difference between sex and gender, because in the Islam and in the Holy Book, they are saying like there is no equality in the sex because it's related to the biological part. We are males and females related to our biological part that we can recognize it by through the eyes. But when we are talking about gender equality, it's related to the community, to the behaviors, to the stereotyping around us. This is why we always say it like sex, it's fixed anywhere around the world because it's related to the biological parts. Wherever like the gender, it's not fixed anywhere. It could like different between like my street and neighborhood and the neighborhood like next door. So this is what we are trying to do, is to tell people gender, it's nothing like against religion. It's something like with the religion, because like it's totally different than the sex equality.
Thank you so much,
Over to you.
Leif. The next question that we have is, how can we actually address the mental health challenges that are faced by youth belonging to the LGBTQ+ community? Is there a panelist who would like to take this question?
I can take that.
Please go ahead.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, this is a longer conversation, and I hope we also do talk about the needs of people who are experiencing firstly different kinds of disabilities, and also people who belong to LGBTQ community. So around the world, you know, the conversation in mental health is now shifting to more inclusive conversations. And for instance, where I come from in Kashmir, we're still talking about the basics. There's still so much unawareness about who to seek support from. There's a lot of stigma. A lot of women especially are not encouraged to seek professional support because then it affects their marriage prospects. And generally mental health issues are still kind of linked with being crazy or being lunatic. You know, for instance, in Myanmar, they still have Lunacy Act when they talk about mental health. So in that, the mental health needs of LGBTQ community sometimes and oftentimes actually do get ignored. We don't talk too much about it. But there's also now increasingly more awareness about queer affirmative practices, for instance. So a lot of professionals are being trained in these kind of specialized practices so that people who are coming from these communities to them to seek support, they don't have to, you know, first kind of invest energy in helping them understand their kind of unique problems and issues that they're experiencing, and they can do away with that and get the kind of support they actually need. But even in that, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and for the namesake, a lot of practitioners also just sometimes put in their bio that they are queer affirmative, which doesn't really help or do any kind of justice. So it's really about ethical considerations and professionalism that all of us, especially as practitioners, need to also be mindful of. If we cannot support or help certain kind of community, we have to be really, really honest about it and then do the work. It's not kind of, it shouldn't be, the responsibility or the onus shouldn't be on the members of marginalized communities. I think if we are doing this kind of work, it really has to be about creating more awareness about these issues, getting properly trained, and being honest about what you can and cannot offer. But I think having said that, you know, coming from the kind of communities like, for instance, Kashmir, there is still so much lack of understanding and acceptance and acknowledgement of these kind of communities to begin with. So even to talk about their mental health needs and to work for their support is very different. At my center, we have been internally also doing a lot of dialogue around queer affirmative practices. What does it mean? Learning and unlearning a lot of this for ourselves so that we can also then talk more about it with the community around us, because it's quite intersectional. When you talk about this, you have to also take into consideration religion and spirituality and other aspects, and some societies are more conservative than others. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. Thank you. Over to you, Ananya.
Thank you so much, Ufra. So I have one last question, and I would request all of our panelists to be very brief. But I'm hoping that this question is going to create the most impact. So if there was only one thing that you hope the people in the audience today do as a result of our conversation, what would it be? Who would like to go first? Sure.
I'll urge you go sit down with a child near you. Listen. Don't listen to respond. Just listen to them. And you'll be shocked on what they would tell you. That's my take for you. Thank you so much, Anaya.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you all once again for joining. This has really been amazing. I am very grateful to each of you for taking the time to be here with us all. I learned a lot from being able to speak with you, and I hope our audience did as well. I would now like to introduce you all to the next segment of our event, where we would like to spotlight a USAID activity and event co-host, Youth Excel. Please join me in welcoming Youth Excel's Communications Officer, Sally Bishara, who is joining us today from Jordan to lead us in this part of the event. Sally, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Ananya. My name is Salif Sharat, and I'm the Communications Officer for the Youth Excel program at IREX, and I'm based in Jordan. I lead the design and implementation of the communication strategy for the program, and I support our partners and youth participants in their communications efforts. I'll be moderating this session in which we're going to highlight two young individual voices who are involved directly in the different programming under the Youth Excel activity. And we're going to answer some of your questions at the end, so please make sure to drop them in the Q&A feature or in the chat box. Let me start off by introducing briefly Youth Excel. Youth Excel is a global program that empowers young people and youth organizations to use implementation research to strengthen their local development solutions. Youth Excel is currently working with over 70 local youth-led and youth-serving organizations in over 15 different countries so far. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our two speakers, Kriseya Khovel and Dennis Okello-Lokoromo. Kriseya and Dennis are here today to share more about the work Youth Excel is doing in addressing gender, power differentials, inclusion, and supporting youth mental health. Our first speaker, Kriseya, is a young researcher at the Autonomous University of Santa Ana in El Salvador. She's pursuing her studies in the field of statistics, and her first research experience is with Youth Excel for the Casa Torogoth project. Kriseya will be sharing her experience working with her team in El Salvador to lead Youth Excel's Intersectional Rapid Gender and Protection Analysis, which we're going to refer to as IRGPA for short. The IRGPA is a tool used to identify the different needs and capacities of women, men, boys, girls, and gender nonconforming persons, among other identities, regarding gender, inclusion, and protection. Over to you, Kriseya.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Sally, for the introduction. And next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to share with you a little of my experience participating with Youth Excel as a researcher, developing the IRGPA for UNASA University in El Salvador. The purpose of the Intersectional Rapid Gender and Protection Analysis was to inform a project proposal for Casa Torogoth developed by the university. The analysis promoted concrete actions in favor of the most vulnerable youth of Santa Ana. For example, based on the findings, we propose strategic tools to convince and select the vulnerable participants that will benefit from Casa Torogoth project. This project was born as a response to the pandemic and to benefit girls that have faced difficult situations like stress and gender-based violence during the lockdown. Through the IRPA, we learned new information. For example, we observed that during the pandemic, reports of gender-based violence increased. We noticed how the lockdown was a factor that impacted the increase of gender-based violence and that women were still able to report it. Unfortunately, in El Salvador, few people have access to this type of data. And remember, information is power. All this information allowed us to make recommendations around gender and inclusion. For example, we recommended that Caseteros promote awareness campaigns on gender-based violence and gender equity for girls to see an ally in the university and feel supported. We also encourage the university to advocate for more girls to benefit from projects like this one. Next slide, please. But if you ask me, what is the importance of the participation of young women in these spaces? I can tell you this. Our experience as a team was totally enriching. It was an articulated work as a team with constant work and responsibility. For me, this experience can be considered an activism because we are breaking intergenerational gaps generated by adult centrism. As a result of this analysis, the university valued the input of young resources, and this analysis has been presented as a new strand of the university, and they state to put more attention to gender and inclusion and strengthen their existing protection policy. Really, I appreciate my participation in Youth Excel for providing these opportunities to young people, and we hope that even more will come. And this is my participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Crisea. It's really exciting to see how young people are using concrete findings to come up with solutions to local problems, and also participating in key spaces that are usually dominated by adults. So thank you for sharing that experience. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to share his experience with us. Dennis is the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at Thrive Gulu in Uganda. He's responsible for managing the monitoring and evaluation functions across all programs in the organization. Dennis's team is implementing a Youth Excel grant to support youth mental health this year, using implementation research to strengthen their work. But before I hand it over to Dennis, please don't forget to share your questions with us in the Q&A feature. Over to you, Dennis.
Greetings. Youth Excel is supporting Thrive Gulu to document key learnings around an existing Dance Plus Therapy program. Next slide. Dance Plus Therapy is a program that integrates dance into mental health and psychosocial support through using a 12 weeks Dance Plus Therapy training curriculum during our sessions. The program focuses on strengthening mental health outcomes by effecting measurable reduction in depression level, anxiety, trauma, and suicidal tendencies. Next slide, please. In light with today's theme of intergenerational solidarity, the program embraces local ownership and values sustainability. In that, we involve community social workers, such as community development, probation and social welfare officers in conducting monitoring visits for vulnerable families and individual sustainability, even after the project is gone. We also use available materials in the communities, such as the sub-county halls, community health center spaces for our things and workshops, which helps our program to be more resource effective. Dance Plus Therapy facilitators are adults and youth who emerge from within the communities they serve. We train them to be able to identify, respond, and refer cases from within their communities. This has strengthened our mental health and psychosocial support referral pathways. Dance Plus Therapy program also attracts both the adults and the youth most especially during the dancing session in the communities. Key to note is that in the rural setting, the participants prefer the traditional dancing equipment such as the drums, while in the urban setting, the participants prefer the modern dancing equipment such as the speakers and the woofers. This kind of dancing together in celebration strengthens intergenerational cohesion. Next slide, please. At the end of the 12 weeks session, the youth go out in an activity called community outreach, where they sensitize the community on mental health issues. They speak about what mental health is. They speak about the challenges, signs and symptoms, the causes of mental health problems, and the available service points that there is for people who are suffering with mental health problems. This has resulted into the young people being seen as mental health champions. Working together with civil society actors and government officers in transmitting messages on mental health has increased awareness and uptake of mental health services in the communities. Close working relationship with key community stakeholders like the police has helped us so very much in fast-tracking arrest of perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence in the communities we serve. As I conclude, I'll leave you with these two quotes. A Dance Plus Therapy youth member during IRGP said, "The youth depend on adults for experience, guidance, and leadership, while the adults depend on the youths for energy, resource, and creativity." In other words, we are interdependent. The youth needs the adults needs the youth. Finally, during IRGPA in ODEC, the officer in charge of ODEC police said, "For a few months now, there has been no suicide case reported. What is really in our community? I beg to submit." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis, for your presentation and for showing us how youth and adults can work together to create a positive impact in their communities. Now we're going to answer some of the questions that we have received. A quick note is that Crisea will be answering her questions in Spanish, so please make sure to switch to the English channel for the interpretation. Our first question goes out to Crisea. Crisea, we have a rising issue on increasing gender-based violence. And as young leaders attending here, sometimes despite the fact that we see all these tendencies scaling, we feel left out because no one is actually ready to stand with us to rescue victims. My question is on how we can boost youth-led organizations to impact change in our local communities. And I'm happy to repeat the question if you need me to.
Ok, muchas gracias por la pregunta. Con respecto, yo creo de que el tema de la violencia siempre va a ser un desafío para poderlo abordar, incluso aún mayor para nosotros que somos jóvenes, pero yo creo que una de las mejores formas en la cual podemos abordar eso sería en el tema del activismo. Podemos utilizar ya las herramientas que nosotros tenemos constituidas, las herramientas que tenemos a nuestro alcance. Podemos hacer activismo por medio de las redes sociales para buscar informar a todas esas personas que están siendo vulnerables ante estas situaciones, y también podemos implementar diferentes campañas para dar a conocer los diferentes derechos de los jóvenes, de las mujeres que probablemente se encuentran en una situación difícil.
Thank you, Crisea, for your answer. We have another question. This one is for Dennis. How do we advance intergenerational learning in a cultural context where youth are viewed as minors?
Thank you very much. It is important to always consider participation in every stage of planning, implementation, and monitoring. We need to involve the young people. We shouldn't look at them as minors. We need mindset change from all stakeholders at different levels to ensure that their voices are heard and represented at all levels. That way, we shall have the youth up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Chrysia, for these insightful presentations and these great answers. Speaking of well-being and protection, we could not pass on the opportunity to mention the great work our partners at Search for Common Ground and the United Network of Young Peace Builders have been doing lately to meaningfully address the unique protection issues facing young people. Earlier this year, both partners launched a pivotal protection blog series to draw attention to the urgent and diverse protection issues young people, specifically in development, peace, and protection, are facing daily. The first blog post focused on the inclusion and protection of gender and sexual minorities, while the other focused on age-based discrimination and harassment, or what we call ageism. To read both blogs, please visit the links in the chat, and to learn more about our protection work, check out this blog that Search for Common Ground prepared last year. Thank you everyone for sticking around to learn more about Youth Excel's work. And now I would like to welcome Sarah Solden and Sylvia Kananu to the stage to highlight some exciting activities and announcements coming from the Youth Excel and YP2LE. Over to you, Sarah and Sylvia.
Thank you, Sally, Chrysia, and Dennis for your great presentations about your work on gender and protection and mental health. My name is Sarah Sladen, and I'm the Senior Technical Advisor for Youth Engagement at YP2LE at Making Sense International. Each of today's speakers shared their perspectives on the importance of achieving real change by working together across generations and achieving this goal through a deeper focus on mental health, power dynamics, and inclusion. And so Sylvia and I are here to connect these themes with some specific examples of how USAID, YP2LE, and Youth Excel are advancing these goals and objectives in our own programs. I want to start, though, by highlighting USAID's newly updated Youth and Development Policy, which covers many of the topics we've discussed today and is organized around a framework of 3 core objectives, which are listed on this slide. The first, access, means that youth are better able to access high-quality information, safe services, and livelihoods opportunities, and build the skills they need to lead healthy, productive, and engaged lives. The second, participation, is that youth have the right to fully participate in decision-making as key partners to contribute to individual, household, community, and national well-being. And the third, systems, means that young people have a stronger collective voice in and are better served by local and national systems through more coordinated and effective services, practices, and policies that embody the principles of positive youth development, or PYD. So this framework offers important guidance for us all and is reflected in the activities supported by YP2LE and Youth Excel that Sylvia and I will share with you next. So in keeping with USAID's first policy objective, access, in 2018 under Youth Power Learning, we launched youthly.org, a global online hub designed to provide more young people with access to information, resources, and networks. This site is for young changemakers who want to have a positive impact in your community through service, activism, advocacy, education, and social entrepreneurship. Today, Youth Lead includes 15,000 plus Youth Lead network members who can explore and contribute to the platform's nearly 6,000 youth-focused resources. It also has dedicated pages on a range of development and social issues, such as climate, environment, and energy, agriculture and food security, entrepreneurship, gender equity, health, technology, and more. And you can also learn more about mentorship through our Youth Lead Mentorship Initiative page and related learning series on a variety of mentorship topics. In addition, changemakers can find and share learning events, funding and scholarship opportunities, connect with peers from around the world, and highlight your own work by creating a Youth Lead profile. The site is available in English, Spanish, French, and Arabic, with Google Translation available across the platform. And you can find more about Youth Lead by following the link that's been shared in the chat. So since its inception, young changemakers have played a critical role in designing, supporting, and growing the Youth Lead platform. They have been co-designers, they have supported as Youth Lead ambassadors, members of our YP2LE Youth Advisory Group, and through ongoing feedback gathered through surveys of the Youth Lead Network. And this approach reflects YP2LE's commitment to engaging youth as partners in our work and ensuring that your participation is meaningful and inclusive. And so this is why we are so excited to welcome our second YP2LE Youth Advisory Group, or YAG, to the project this past July. In line with USAID's second youth policy objective, participation, the YAG plays a vital role to advise and contribute and collaborate with our team on how we can strengthen youth engagement across the project's PYD activities and initiatives. YAG members are engaged as consultants with our team and bring their individual and collective expertise to work closely with us in support of YP2LE's activities. So this means that YAG members support YP2LE's PYD learning agenda and related research activities. They advise on our platforms, communications, and campaigns with a focus on how to better reach and engage more young people and ensure that our activities are inclusive and accessible. They also contribute directly to our youth engagement capacity strengthening activities, as well as our learning networks and communities of practice. Our 5 new YAG members are 3 young women and 2 young men between the ages of 21 and 27 from Albania, Cameroon, Nepal, Nicaragua, and the Philippines. These members were selected through a competitive call for applications via Youth Lead and from nearly 5,000 applicants. And so we are so excited to welcome them to our team. You can read more about the YAG and its role on youthlead.org, and you should see a link to that in the chat box. Finally, we are so pleased to share news about our Youth Lead Ambassador and Peer Advisor program. This program contributes to the third objective of USAID's youth policy systems in 2 key ways. The first is by investing in young people's leadership skills and connecting these young change makers to a global network of like-minded peers who are working and advocating around key social and development issues in their communities. The second is by connecting youth networks to resources. Ambassadors help bring the benefits of Youth Lead to national, regional, and local youth and raise awareness about the platform's resources and networking opportunities for more young change makers. In July, we welcomed our 4th cohort of 16 Youth Lead ambassadors and 5 peer advisors from 16 countries, also competitively selected from an open call for applications process, for which we received more than 3,000 applicants. Ambassadors work closely with their peer advisors, who are returning ambassadors, to design and implement a leadership project on a social or development topic of their choice. Ambassadors also participate in programming implemented by the YP2LE Youth Engagement Team that's designed to build their leadership and professional skills and grow their network. Peer advisors are additionally engaged in peer mentoring capacity building activities through the Youth Lead Mentorship Initiative. So since we launched the Ambassador Program in 2019, we have graduated over 70 ambassadors and 14 peer advisors from around the world. And we are so excited to welcome our new class of ambassadors and peer advisors. As with the YAG, we encourage you to visit Youth Lead and learn more about them. And you can follow all of the links we've shared in the chat to find out more about these activities, join our network, and connect with the community. Sylvia, I will hand things off to you now to share some exciting announcements from Youth Excel.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. My name is Sylvia Kananu, and I'm the Youth Excel project lead at IREX. So in terms of opportunities and access to opportunities, we shall be launching some very new and exciting opportunities for young people. Please do follow Youth Excel to be among the first to know when these opportunities open up. So my colleague Sally is going to drop the link in the chat so that you can know what to use when you want to check up on opportunities in Youth Excel. Additionally, some months ago, we launched our implementation research toolkit, and this is a step-by-step process to planning and carrying out research and using the findings to develop concrete actions. This toolkit is meant to assist you as either a youth practitioner, whether you're in a youth-led or a youth-serving organization, and this is meant to strengthen your programs using research and data. Over 70 organizations so far have used this toolkit, and their feedback has helped to shape it, and we're excited to share this resource with you. Finally, I have one last very exciting announcement to make. So some of you may recall that on May 6th, USAID launched its updated youth policy, and during the event, we had the honor of having Administrator Powers announce the launch of a global grant competition, which was open to youth across the different regions where USAID works. And so we are excited to lead USAID's first global grant competition for youth-led organizations. And it's my honor today to announce the finalists in the Youth Excel Global Grant Competition. So Next slide, please. Yes, a bit of background. We received over 230 applications, and this was from youth-led organizations working on local level social cohesion. And we selected 6 finalists in 5 regions. So the 6th finalist will be announced very soon. And so I'm glad to recognize from Colombia, we have Fundación Barranquilla, +20. From West Bank, we have Palestinian Center for Communication and Development Strategies. From Madagascar, we have Project Jeune Leader. And from Kenya, we have Youth Alive Kenya. And from Georgia, we have Youth for Democratic Changes. I'm happy to see all the applause going on. It was very competitive, so we really do appreciate these organizations, and we're thrilled to have them to join the Youth Excel family. Again, please continue to follow our socials to learn more about our new partners' work. And so with that, we have come to the closing session of today's event. Good things always end, isn't it, on the most part? And so it's my pleasure to give you the closing remarks, and I'll do this together with my colleague, Kevins. Kevins, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sylvia. It's really been indeed a great past 2 hours. My name is Kevins Randiek, and it's a pleasure to plug in with Sylvia Kanano this particular hour. To actually just give you, as in some closing remarks, I am a person who loves using communications as a tool of advancing change, and definitely we've really seen exciting sentiments, contexts being shared within the past 2 hours. And probably for us to just get it started, Sylvia, I know it's been a lot really interesting, exciting for the past 2 hours. I don't know what stood out for you.
Oh, wow. A lot stood out for me. Maybe I'll start by talking about the first session we had. We had opening remarks that was given by DAA Bama Threya, as well as Kevin Shepherd. And so something that stood out for me was when the DA mentioned we need to hear all voices so that we can make the best choices. And I thought that really resonated with what was shared on later in the intergenerational panel, as well as remarks that were shared in the youth voice video. So I think that was something that was really powerful. And something I also saw, that being trusted at such a young age with great responsibility has shaped her to be the advocate that she is today. Very encouraging in terms of, you know, why it matters to involve youth in leadership. And I also really liked what Tevin said when he talked about tokenization. I know a lot of us in these circles have heard about it, and he gave really practical steps and said, you know, when we have tokenization, what that means is you'll have youth disengagement. And so the answer is, it's simple. Yes, we need to meaningfully engage young people. And so that involves from designing programs, implementing programs, getting feedback on programs as well. So I think that was really insightful. And I also heard this both from one of our panelists as well as from Tevins about the value of listening. Listening is a two-way exercise. So this is something for both youth and adults alike. And yeah, there's a lot I could say, but I'm also curious to hear what stood out for you, Kevins, as well.
Right, thank you, Sylvia. What really stood out for me, and actually it's something that I practice it within my jurisdiction as a young person, is the ability of hiring young people and actually putting them at the decision-making process. In that, I really believe in the sense of the power of the youthful demographic is indeed powerful. And the only way we could expose them to more and more opportunities is actually by putting them at the center of decision-making. That was really indeed powerful and insightful for me from Bama's comment. Then another interesting one that I picked up is the experience that you get in serving rural communities. And that really came in handy during Tevin's sentiments, in that in order for you to really be exposed in terms of what happens daily within our community setups, you need to expose yourselves to the rural demographics. That was really exciting. And also a terrific one out of Tevin's context was the bit of in the year 2016, that's already 6 years down the line, whereby he was recognized by Queen Elizabeth II, courtesy of the incredible work that he's doing within his community. That was indeed powerful sentiments that I was able to pick up. And probably at this particular time, let me just maybe take it back to you, Sylvia, for any additional sentiments that you have as we progress during this probably wrap-up segment.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Those are really good points as well that were brought up. So as a recap to everyone here today, our event has been focused on the IYD theme on intergenerational solidarity. And we've been looking at how having safe spaces, protection for young people, mental well-being, and addressing power differentials can create an enabling environment where we can have inclusive youth-driven development. And we understand this to be a centerpiece for intergenerational solidarity. And so in line with that theme, we've had so many great speakers today, and I want to start off by we want to take some time to thank everyone who has spoken today. And let me start by thanking our DA, Bama Athrea, and USAID Youth Specialist, Tevin Shepard. And I believe your intro remarks and the stories you shared, your personal stories, shows that youth who are trusted with leadership, as they continue to grow, they pave the way forward for other youth. And it was such an honor to have both of you with us today. A big thank you from all of us for contributing to making this such an insightful event.
Wow, great. And probably to also just affirm what Sylvia's building up on is I'm fully in agreement that really Bama and Tevin's opening remarks really set context in terms of what we experienced within the past 2 hours. It was indeed really impactful and spectacular. I was really pleased and glad to sit in. I also want to say a big thank you to the youth represented through the Youth Voices video for taking their time to share their sentiments with us today. And indeed, I ended up just actually trying as much as possible to ensure I captured up their names. And this is Maya Canas from Guatemala. There was Emma Gumbarids from Georgia. And there was also Bagoa Elvis from Cameroon, and not forgetting Mai Namboze from Uganda. And interesting sentiments that also emerged out of the Youth Voices video. Like, for example, Mai from Uganda bringing in the essence of actually understanding issues that affects different communities. That was really an interesting perspective that I picked up from Maya. Then also Maya Canas from Guatemala, talking about all people, regardless of age, can work in harmony and support each other for the greater good of family, communities, and municipalities. That was such an interesting segment that I ended up picking up out of the video. Then, of course, also Elvis alluding to the fact that intergenerational aspect is all about creating safer environments for children. Any person at times who talks about children really touches my heart. That was a great bit that also came out of the video. And also I want to go about and thank the speakers who sat in on the intergenerational panel, where they actually recounted personal stories from their experiences about what works, what doesn't, and what can be done to better solidify intergenerational solidarity. And in the process, at the end of it, actually generating better program outcomes. And on this, a big thank you to Leif Abu, Uframira, Dhania Favaz, and of course, our countryman from Kenya, that is Jennifer Kaberi, who is founder of Total News. That was really a good one from that particular segment. And of course, also the Youth Excel presentations were remarkable. And on these, I would like to say Asante Sana, which is a Kiswahili word, to the young leaders who participated in the Youth Excel activities and demonstrated how these initiatives strengthen intergenerational solidarity and how intergenerational solidarity advances shared goals. And probably if at all we could just have me putting their names into context, there was Sally Bisharat, who actually played as also moderator for that particular segment, Chrissy Adele, there's Dennis Lokoroma, and of course there's Jovel Valenzuela. Thank you so much, people, for making that particular segment indeed powerful, and also actually demonstrating what research initiatives does when it comes to actually enhancing the intergenerational solidarity theme. And of course, this particular event would not have been possible without the incredible partners who really worked tirelessly to make this particular bit possible. And I see Sylvia is indeed smiling. I know she's upbeat, actually ready to mention that. Sylvia, yes,
yeah, indeed. Indeed, Kevin. So we want to start by giving a very big thank you to USAID for making this event a success. We appreciate all of you from DA Bama, Threa, to Tevin Shepard, Hilary Taft, Naria Willis, and the entire USAID team that was working behind the scenes to bring this event together. It took a village for this one, and we really do appreciate all your efforts. I also want to thank the YP2LE team at Making Sense International. They've also been a pillar in this event, running the social media, event logistics, speaker lineup for today's event. It's been good as always collaborating with you all.
All right, and of course, not forgetting the Youth Excel, and Youth Excel proudly led by Sylvia Kananu, who is the project lead for Youth Excel, for the incredible partnership played towards making every bit of this a success. Thank you for the speaker lineup, event coordination, and all the roles you played towards making this particular event a success. Last but not least is for you, our entire credible audience who have been present since the start to now, and I can testify that since we started up to now, we've only dropped 10 participants. It has actually just remained constant for the 200 plus attendees who were present. And I don't know, maybe Sylvia, is there probably any particular comment that you picked up from the chat box? Because I tried following it and it was a mouthful. I don't know if there's any great one that you picked up because I really tried to follow up. It was a mouthful. Thank you for keeping the chat box active. I do appreciate also the fact that yes, there were some questions that were asked, and yes, maybe they were not maybe responded to in fully, but that was really exciting and encouraging for you to probably just engage the platform as the session turned by. That was really great. And of course, also, let me probably just put across the audience featuring youth-led and youth-serving organizations, including USAID staff, USAID implementing partners, organization implementing youth programs, amongst others. We've also, as I said, we've also been monitoring the social media box and the chat box. It was really a mouthful. Thank you so much for keeping it busy. And I hope we'll get to experience each other on our next event. And without a doubt, as Sylvia also alluded to, initially, before coming into these particular closing remarks, each and everything that has a beginning at times gets to have an end. And I'll just want you to join me alongside Sylvia in once again saying asanteni sana, which is a Kiswahili word meaning thank you very much for being present during the past two events, during the past 2 hours. And in this particular context, I'll want to maybe just usher you in terms of what do you expect after this particular 2-hour event. And probably Sylvia, you could guide us across onto that.
Sure. So I think we've seen one or more questions around if we'll be sharing the recording, and I'm pleased to announce that yes, we will be sharing today's recording. So in case you missed a bit of it, you joined a little bit late, or you want to watch it again or share it with colleagues, friends, and anyone that you think will be interested, don't worry, this is going to be available, and this is going to be on the YP2LE webpage as well as on IREX's event page. So I believe you're going to get an email with the relevant links to get you to this recording.
All right, and as Sylvia's alluded to the fact that the recordings are going to be shared, I just want to put a challenge across to you. Yes, you've been listening to this for the past 2 hours, and ask from me to you is what is this particular specific thing that you're taking out of this particular 2-hour event? I hope it was inspiring. And with that particular reference, we hope we've inspired you to take action to support intergenerational solidarity. And definitely, of course, put every bit of what we've learned today into context. That's my urge to you, and that's my encouragement to you. And as we come to a conclusion, it's been a fantastic process having you, team. It's been a pleasure doing this. And until next time, inshallah, stay blessed, and let's keep on making the world a better place. For now, I want to say thank you for Sylvia for having me at this particular place, and we want to take it back to our MC and our moderator for this event, who has done a spectacular work. Anaya, back to you, and thank you, team, and God bless. Have yourselves a fantastic time where you are. Ananya, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot again to all of our speakers, support staff, and the wonderful audience for joining us today. I understand that all of you have expressed a desire to connect with each other and to continue the wonderful discussions that you all have been having in the chat box. Therefore, I would like to let you know that we have posted links for the discussion groups on the Youth Lead platform, and these links will be available to you in the chat box. Please use those links to connect with each other and to continue the wonderful discussions that you've been having in the last 2 hours. So today's event has further cemented my belief that our future indeed depends on breaking the barriers that hinder intergenerational solidarity. Fostering inclusion requires an integrated approach that creates an enabling environment, innovative tools, mechanisms, and platforms that allow people of all ages to contribute meaningfully to the advancement of humankind. It's time that we create a world for all ages so that no one is left behind. By coming together as a broad coalition, we can collaborate to promote successful and equitable intergenerational relations and partnerships for sustainable development. With that being said, I would like to wish you all a very happy International Youth Day 2022. Thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye.